Welcome to South Harmon.
Yes, sir. We are live. We have, as you can see, the big guy, Mike McNutted, is not here today, but we are joined by Seth Diewold. Seth, what is going on, man? Make sure you guys go check him out. Dynasty Roundtable on YouTube, and doing a lot of great work for us, doing stuff with Fantasy Pros. But I wanted to give you a little bit of an intro, man. Appreciate you hopping on. And what is going on tonight, my friend? We're going to do a little Choose Your Fighter.
Oh, I can't wait. This is, I mean, you were showing me the graphics behind the scenes, and it made me, it sparked a whole conversation. Like, when you think that you're good at this thing called fantasy football content, and then Adam's like, hold on, let me press a few buttons and show you this completely amazing thing that I made up. Like, I don't know how long it took you, to be honest with you, but it looked like it took you like 2 minutes. And I just was like, oh my God, I have so much to learn still. No, this is going to be fun. I really am enjoying the work that I'm doing for South Harmon. If you don't know, I'm the guy who's clipping up the shorts. So if you've seen shorts recently on the channel,
big guy doing shorts for South Harmon, you know.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I do. And and doing some work for Fantasy Pros as well. And we have our own, just trying to climb up the industry as some people do, as you've done. Just really trying to follow in Adam's footsteps. Really, that's what
man, look at this guy
trying to do.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I'm trying to follow in a lot of footsteps, but I'll tell you this, buddy. We have a super chat, and go ahead and get right to it, man. Speaking of graphics, let's throw a little money in the screen. All right, we got Jake shouting out Fizzle. I truly respect his work ethic and what he brings to South Harmon. I respect his work ethic and what he brings to South Harmon as well. Love what y'all built. Appreciate that, Jake. The message was sponsored by the Carolina Panthers. So Jake works with the Carolina Panthers. And so we got – listen, man, he's talking about following my footsteps. He works for Fantasy Pros. We got Jake working for an NFL team. I'm just kind of sidelining over here so far. But, hey, we got Cameron Myers. This is also our guy. Shout out to him. Best shorts in the biz. Listen, man, I really wish, like back in the day, when I first started doing this, 2022, 2023, I kind of was getting into the shorts and had a lot of fun with it. But, man, the time sink for me to do it was just – it wasn't going to happen. And to have somebody doing that and trying to put it in at a high level, love having that from you, man. It's been awesome.
No, it's been fun. Those are fun to do for me because you get to, just kind of isolate something that, you think people are going to care about, and then you can really put your creativity on it. And by the way, Fizzle, I was on Fizzle's show. You need to go follow the South Harmon Fantasy channel and the South Harmon Vibes channel.
Yes.
So if you're watching this and you haven't subbed to those channels, you got to go do it, because I was on with Fizzle, and that might have been the coolest experience. I'll just go ahead and say it might have been one of the coolest experiences of my life. Like, I felt like I walked into the club, felt like I walked into Fantasy Football Club, and just it's just a great show. I mean, it's just so much fun for me to participate in, and for us to, engage with the audience as we're going along. So, I mean, that's a super underrated spot. You got to go check that out.
Yeah, man. It is South Harmon Vibes. So we have now 3 channels at the moment. We have the South Harmon Vibes, which Fizz is running, and T-Rock, another. Listen, these guys both, for the record, were not doing any content creation either, right? Not that long ago, it feels like, and just rocked with the brand. Now have that platform. We have the Redraft channel, right? Just the fantasy football channel, South Harmon Fantasy Football. Go check those out if you're into those. Maddie, Eric, I got all these guys on the screen. DB, one of these days we're gonna get him in there. I don't know. He's a little tougher to get on, but DB, we're keep working at it. And listen, man, I keep seeing these comments. We need those golf shirts. Right now, these are I fuck with them, right? But they're team gear, and you got to get them running long, like, batches. So maybe one day, but right now, man, this is just the team gear. And I will tell you this: we have in here. Someone was saying Adam Goat. I appreciate that. I'm not sure who CM is. It could be my burner for all we know. What I was going to ask you is, Seth, on that show, I was watching that too, and I was kind of just sitting back and thinking about, like, it's pretty cool to have guys like you and him doing a show and just being able to watch that. Like, these guys are loving what they're doing right now. speaking of loving what you're doing, I don't know if you've done this before, but we kind of just do the, would you rather in Dynasty Fantasy Football, but do you want to do Choose Your Fighter? And have you thought and talked much about or looked into the elite of the elite receivers? I'm curious just off the rip what your thoughts are on guys like Chase, Jefferson, Nabers, CD Lamb, Puka, BTJ, these type of players, and where you have what players.
Yeah, I mean, I probably don't differ too much from consensus. I mean, obviously the top options are Chase and Jefferson, and I don't know if you have a strong opinion on either one of those two. We just did a wide receiver rankings and tiers episode on the Dynasty Roundtable.
Unfortunately, you're going to find out I don't mean to cut you off. You're going to find out I do have a strong opinion, but keep going. Going.
It's my opinion is go ahead and get your guy, whichever one that you like, and it's going to be interesting to hear what you say, because I have probably the literal opposite opinion of you. You have a strong opinion. I don't really have a strong opinion between one of those two guys, but yeah, I think Nabers, CD Lamb, Brian Thomas Jr., all these guys are just, I mean, it's a cliche probably, but they're cornerstones of the dynasty.
They're all great
teams. Like, I mean, you won them all, so
that's fair.
I like, obviously I think Chase and Jefferson are at the top. I've got Lamb, then Nabers, then St. Brown, then Puka, then Thomas Jr., but I think that's probably consensus. So it's a little bit later on down the rankings where I differ maybe, but yeah. So.
Well, I'll tell you this. Probably tomorrow at some point, it'll be coming out on the BDGE Dynasty Fantasy Football channel. I have a video coming out where I give you a 30-plus minute video. It's a POV of that specific person, kind of like my case for why this person should be the wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. But I'll tell you what, man. Let's go ahead and let's get into Choose Your Fighter. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, man. We're going to choose your fighter, as you see in the thumbnail. All right. You said already, interesting, I put him on your side because you got him in the tier. You said him and Chase, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. And we're going to do Choose Your Fighter with not Jamar Chase. Malik Nabers will be almost perfect for where I put these guys. Happened to be, I didn't realize where you'd be on this. It's kind of funny because you were telling me at the beginning, right? Like, this is kind of cliche, but I think they're all great. One of the things that sometimes I forget about when I'm not doing content with Mike comes in with extremely strong opinions. One of the things I love about him, right? But when he does these, I basically know I don't have to ask him or pry much to get him to give me really strong alternate opinion if I'm looking for that. So what I'm curious about here, right? So you got Jefferson and Chase at a tier. Let's just give me the Jefferson. You would pick him here, right? What makes you say Jefferson should be at the top, or what are some things about him, whether that's moving forward, whether that's his market, whether that's his age? And there's a lot of different factors that come into Dynasty. For him specifically, what makes you put him at 1 or at 2?
Yeah, I would have him at 2 right now. I've Chased at 1 again, but if you came to me in a startup and you said I have to have Justin Jefferson and both of them were on the board, I wouldn't fight you too hard on it. I think they're both awesome, but he's still, he's going to turn 26 years old, but I don't really think that matters much for a wide receiver as elite as him. He's still young enough. I mean, he's about as consistent as you want to be over the last 4 years. I mean, he hasn't finished lower than 5th in fantasy points per game, and you know exactly what you're going to get.
Consistency from him for sure is tough to argue, no question.
Yeah, and he's been hovering around. Last year he had 18.7 fantasy points per game, but he typically the years before that he's in the 20s. And
would you like his average? I've kind of done a lot of research on this. Would you like his average over all of his time?
Sure, go for it.
I believe he's at 19.5. So let me actually 19.16 points per game across all of his years. That's his average fantasy points per game.
That's pretty good. That's really good. And you look at the offense, the situation. There's some uncertainty with how good JJ McCarthy's going to be. I happen to think he's going to be really good with Kevin O'Connell. Like if Kevin O'Connell can make Sam Darnold look how he looked, I feel pretty confident in JJ McCarthy going forward. So all of it, like I understand Chase is in a great situation too. Nabers, like, I mean, who's the quarterback going to be outside of this year? You know, Nabers is awesome. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to throw shade. He's still in my top 5, but it really comes down to that. Now, it may not matter, and if Winston ends up winning the job, then it could just be insane. Like, I mean, I think we're all pulling for that in the fantasy community. But tell me why you're choosing Malik Nabers here, and why that insane video graphic that you just made had Malik Nabers killing Justin Jefferson, or at least it looked like it.
Well, let me just phrase it in a few different things. You kind of bring up talking about his situation. And I think in general, right, if you're talking about the 3 of these players, even if there's some uncertainty about J.J. McCarthy, right, we still know it's a Kevin O'Connell offense, and we've seen him with Darnold. We've seen him with other players at the quarterback position just eat, right? So the crazy part, though, is obviously the Viking situation, the Bengals situation. There's not even a discussion what situation you prefer. I guess to me, that's actually my point is – his situation's bad, but didn't he just smash? Wasn't he just a 21-year-old guy that had Daniel Jones, Tim Boyle? I mean, like, the cast of characters he had to beat. He did better. 18.2 fantasy points per game, better than Jamar Chase in his rookie season, 17.9. Better than Justin Jefferson in his rookie season, 17.1. I think the thing with me with Chase and Jefferson versus Nabers is basically put it like this. 18.7 for a guy in his 5th year, Justin Jefferson, or 18.2 for a rookie, just generically, without thinking of the names on that, we would typically say, oh, well, the production's super similar. We would rather have the rookie in Dynasty. We'd rather have the guy who's 5 years or 4 years younger. So the fact that the situation is uncertain moving forward to me isn't like as much of a concern, and actually more of a reason to lean into Malik Nabers, which I'll get ready to do in a second here. But the situation was horrible, and we saw him absolutely go crazy. Like, we've actually never seen that part done before. Like, yeah, we've seen with Justin Jefferson early, Kirk Cousins. We saw Kirk Cousins give top 10 seasons to Diggs, to Thielen. We know how good Burrow is, right? And Burrow and Chase are teammates. It's not to knock them having a good situation, but we've never seen what we typically do for guys that are young, exciting players that are in bad situations. You know what we normally do? We defend their lack of production. Oh, well, Drake London's going to be awesome in the future when it gets better. Yeah, Garrett Wilson's going to be awesome in the future when they get Rodgers, when it gets better. How about if he just smashes in a shitty situation? Like, that's, I guess, the thing for me that I struggle with is if the situation's shit and he already ate, why are we worried about that moving forward?
It's a good point. And to your point, did you know, and I'm sure you do.
Oh, I love the did you know. Please give it to me.
Daniel Jones, 10 games started. His basically almost half the season. So 7 other starts, right? 7 other starts. Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito started 7 games for the New York Giants last year and attempted over 200 passes. And yeah, so that it doesn't get much worse than that. The combination of Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart now, I mean, that's leaps and bounds ahead of what they had last year, even with Daniel Jones in there. So
would you say that again? Would you say that again? Leaps and bounds.
Leaps and bounds. I mean,
it is
from a depth perspective. I mean, I guess you're right, because what are you worried about from a depth perspective? So what? Russell Wilson's not good. Okay, we have Jameis Winston, who's wide receiver money, gold for Jerry Jeudy last year. Just go look at Jerry Jeudy's splits with Jameis Winston and without Jameis Winston. It's a completely different story. So, and then you have the rookie wild card in there, Jackson Dart. I mean, I know he got drafted a little bit later than in the first round, but who knows? There's some upside there as well. So,
all right. Well, this is already going to be fun. You're hitting some of the topics that I I like to get to and discuss here. But let me just, before I do that, okay. So last year, in his rookie season, Nabers versus Chase and Jefferson's rookie season, the arrow goes to Nabers. Last year, guys, because you talked about how the first 10 games, Daniel Jones, and after that, it was Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito starting. In those last 7 games, let's talk about the money weeks. Seth, I don't know if you know this. In the money weeks, so we're talking 15, 16, 17, when all the money is won in fantasy football, what was the production like for these guys in those 3 weeks? Do you know?
I don't, not off the top of my head.
What I can tell you is the number 1 receiver during that time period was Malik Nabers on a points per game basis. Malik Nabers, in his rookie season, beat Jamar Chase in the year that he won the Triple Crown in production. Now, really want to get crazy. You talked about how the situation's better moving forward. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I think back to how in the world did anybody sell us on Daniel Jones ever? Like, do you know how horrible his stats were? Honestly, guys, like, I'm going to get ready to tell you a little bit about this, but his ceiling, if we even gave him a 17-game pace on all the years that he basically has always missed a couple games here and there, ceiling for touchdowns would be 15 passing touchdowns. Ceiling. If we extrapolated his stats out in all of his years, like literally there was not going to be a single year where he threw for more than 15 touchdowns. Do you guys know how many touchdowns the Bengals threw last year? It's leading the NFL in both yards and in touchdowns. Basically, what I'm getting ready to tell you is that the Giants, they were 29th last year in passing yards in all relative to all the teams. They were dead last in the NFL as far as touchdowns go. 15 touchdowns, right? They threw 15 touchdowns over those weeks. 7 of them were Malik Nabers. Malik Nabers accounted for almost 50% of the touchdowns that the Giants had receiving wise. He missed 2 games. Also, one of the craziest parts when you start thinking about this, I don't know, Seth, do you remember how much of a crazy start Malik Nabers was off to?
Yeah, and I have it pulled up here. Weeks 2, 3, and 4 were insane.
Yeah, go ahead, talk about it, please. It's interesting. You got it already up. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I got it. So against Washington in week 2, wide receiver 3. This again, as you say, this is rookie season. So 2nd career game. 3rd career game against Cleveland, wide receiver 4 on the week, 28.2 fantasy points. In week 4 against Dallas, and I'm assuming that's when he got hurt, because that's when, it was week 4.
He did. He got a concussion during that game. Yes, right, correct.
So he was on a heater before the concussion, 23.1 fantasy points against Dallas, and then it took some time for him to really get back to that point after the injury. But he was those 3 weeks at the very start of his career was quite unbelievable.
So you know what's interesting about that, right? I think in general, when you go back and look, like it's easy in the moment, watching, let's say, any one of those games, Washington or Dallas, if you're watching the game or you're, in that specific time period, it was crazy, all the buzz around Malik Nabers, and what he was doing was literally something we've never seen before, on pace to smash every record by a country mile through 4 weeks, right? Then he gets the concussion. He ended up missing 1 game. Obviously, you're basically a lock to miss a week anymore with the protocol. He ended up missing a 2nd week. So then all of a sudden the buzz starts to go away. And then to the point now, it may not be as easy to think back about the entire season. And probably for the Giants, especially, nobody gives a shit. The Giants were terrible, and no one's really watching their games outside of their fans probably on a consistent basis. The crazy part is, during week 6, Andrew Thomas gets hurt, right? And what people kind of fail to realize is Andrew Thomas is one of the best left tackles in the game, period. And it's actually week 7, if you take a look at his stats in week 7, right? That's the only game where Malik Nabers, if you take a look, he has less than 5 receptions and less than 50 yards. And it's in that game. Now, it happens to be versus Philly, whose defense we saw is unfucking believable, right? I mean, we saw what happened in the Super Bowl. They freaking made the Chiefs look like a JV team. But when Andrew Thomas is out of the lineup, what definitely takes place is people are getting pressure. So Daniel Jones can sit back for a little bit more and get the ball to Nabers. That does help. And when he was out of the lineup, If you take a look as well, the Giants are 2-3 during the early part of the year when they had Andrew Thomas in there. They won one game without Andrew Thomas. When Malik Nabers came back, Andrew Thomas being out basically completely changed the time that whether it was Daniel Jones or all these hodgepodge of garbage quarterbacks to get him the rock. Think about this for a second, okay? If Andrew Thomas and Malik Nabers were on the field together in those weeks, I know it's a small sample size, from weeks 1 to 4, fantasy wide receiver 1 during that time, Malik Nabers, not close. 22.1 fantasy points per game in those weeks, y'all. Getting ready to give you some crazy numbers, though, okay? Let me find them. I will find them, I promise you. The first 4 weeks here. So, all right, you ready for this? These are the weeks where Andrew Thomas was playing for the Giants. And Malik Nabers had 540 air yards in 4 games. Number 1 in the NFL. Targets, 52. Number 1 in the NFL. Target percentage, 38.24% of the Giants' targets. Number 1 in the NFL. He had 3 touchdowns. Check this out. 3 touchdowns at that time, was tied for second in the NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jettas, Chase, Godwin, all with him at 3. His ADOT at that point was 10.39, right? Average depth per target. So his targets were basically 10th in the NFL. For as many targets as he got, they were actually deep. After this injury takes place, his ADOT all the way down to 9.3. That may not seem like a lot, but that went from 10th in the NFL down to 36th. Everything went significantly down after that. We have TDs across the entire rest of his season. 3. So basically what I'm telling you is in those 4 weeks, you could say it's a small sample size for sure. And he was he was like destined to come back to reality a little bit. But I would argue actually that we don't even know if that's the case. If he was to stay healthy, he had a Lisfranc injury. He's due to be back this year. Russell Wilson, for the 6 weeks him and Pickens were healthy together. Pickens, wide receiver 14. For the weeks you talk about Jameis. Jameis had either Cedric Tillman or Jerry Jeudy almost every week as a top 12 receiver. So everything this coming up year is upgraded for him. And we already saw last year during the fantasy football playoffs, better than Chase, better than Jefferson. And in the start of the year when they had no Andrew Thomas, or when they did have Andrew Thomas, best receiver in football. Like, we already saw all this. I guess I just don't get how the 21, going to be 22-year-old guy isn't wide receiver 1 when we think about those things. I have a couple other things to give you, pretty cool tidbits, but as you're sitting there listening to me, probably thinking, damn, this guy likes to talk a lot, Seth. What are your thoughts, man?
I think you're converting me, honestly. I'm listening to this and I'm thinking too, and I'm just okay, and maybe I don't want to steal your points later on, but I think this should be fairly obvious.
Please, if you do, I want you to take it and go.
All right. So, and I'm just saying, all right, Justin Jefferson has Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson is still there, right?
Sure is.
He's still in the offense.
Yep.
And Cincinnati has a guy named T. Higgins there.
Sure is.
Who, because as you're talking, I'm like, wait a minute, who is in the Giants offense? And I have it pulled up.
Fun. Go ahead. Yeah.
You
tell me.
You just let me know who you're worried about as far as target competition.
Well, it won't
Darius
be from New York. Go ahead, Darius Slayton.
Wandale
Okay.
Robinson. They did add Zach Pascal.
Ooh,
so
Zach
watch
Pascal.
out for that.
Dude, sneaky upside.
Yeah, Jalen Hyatt, Amir Smith-Marset. I mean, I'm probably far enough down the wide receiver line there. Oh, but they must have a good tight end, right? Theo Johnson, 4th round pick.
Ras freak.
So is how is this not a lock? Just a lock 30% target share. I mean, he was 34%, 35%. I mean,
we could have written this show. Right? We could have written this show and it would have went worse. You want me to talk about targets? Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
I have you. I've got you on this.
All right.
You ready for this? Targets. Speaking of which, who was best in targets last year between the three? Raw numbers. Okay. He only played 15 games. Raw numbers, 170, not close. If we go on a points per game basis, which honestly, because Chase and Jefferson and Nabers, they all had different games. If you remember, Jefferson played in his rookie season when it was still only a 17-game season. So, I'm sorry, a 17-week season, I should say. So, when we go to targets per game, okay, Malik Nabers was 11.33 targets per game last year. So, if we go all time, forget rookie seasons, that puts him 48th of all seasons, basically, in NFL history. Now, if you consider taking it from, I'm sorry, that's 24th on the list as far as targets per game, okay? There's only 23 people in seasons that are better. If you take out the people that have done it twice, this is the list of people that have had 11.33 targets a game. Mind you, Malik's a rookie here, right? Ready for this list? Marvin Harrison Jr. Not Marvin Harrison Jr., y'all. Gotcha. Marvin Harrison Sr., okay? Not the person drafted in front of him. How about his dad, okay, back in the day? Marvin Harrison Sr., Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones, Anquan Bolden, Reggie Wayne, Brandon Marshall twice, Antonio Brown twice, Nuke Hopkins twice, Keyshawn Johnson, Torrey Holt twice, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, Demaryius Thomas, Randy Moss, Rod Smith, Terrell Owens, Josh Gordon, Malik Nabers. You won't hear, and you didn't hear, unless you're got some problems, Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase on that list. Basically, what I will tell you, none of those players are rookies. What he did in his rookie season, insane. So one of the most sticky metrics in general is just opportunity. We're chasing opportunity. Like you just talked about how literally all the draft, everything they could do, they didn't address receiver position. He is going to get outrageously targeted again, right or wrong. It's going to happen. Russell Wilson, you want to talk about quality of targets? Did you know Russell Wilson last year, number 2 in the NFL in deep ball completion percentage? Per player profiler, you will see what that means is targets, basically passes that go past 20 yards. Okay, so anytime Russ threw the ball 20 yards in the air or more, it was caught 47% of the time. Do you guys care to guess what Danny Dimes was in that category?
Not that good.
27%. Basically, 1 out of 4 passes he threw 20 yards was going to get caught. So, Jameis Winston, you don't even need me to give you stats on Jameis Winston. We know he's going to do some really bad things, and he's going to help out fantasy receivers. The targets part is actually crazy that people don't give that a little bit more of a credit because, like, say what you want, targets are earned, right? And you could say they had to force feed him the ball, sure, but they basically said, whether it's with or without Andrew Thomas, they basically said, listen, we have one guy that we just want to get the ball to all the time. And teams knew that's who they wanted to get the ball to. And they still couldn't fucking stop him. And he's in his rookie season. Like, I don't know. Someone else help me out. I don't get it.
I feel like the graphic at the beginning, you know, I feel like I went in with the attitude like, oh, of course I'm going to win this fight.
I should have saved the graphic for the end. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. You kind of gave away the ending, but it's okay. I kind of felt like obviously Justin Jefferson should be the wide receiver 1 or 2 in Dynasty. This is the truth. This is an established fact. And and the perception of the bad situation. I mean, the bad situation was last year. This year, I mean, to use my own words against me, and I know this is probably I'm probably supposed to try to fight you tooth and nail on this, but you know,
please do or don't.
Segment,
go ahead.
Given the nature of the segment, you know, choose your fighter. But god damn, I mean, that you hit on a lot of things. And then you go to the target competition and there's nothing, and he's younger, and I'm looking, and I know this is a dynasty show, but man, Malik Nabers is getting, I mean, in the first round, when you're 6 spots in separation, Jamar Chase is the consensus 101.
Yeah.
Him and Barkley, and Malik Nabers is hanging out in the middle of the first round. Like that's a pretty big difference. And you're converting me. I'm gonna have to probably rate Bryce. I'm converted to the Neighbors. I don't know if you want to call it a cult. I don't know if there's some creative name.
I'm trying to come up with a cult. I'm trying to make up a cult. I want to make this cult. I'll tell you what. We'll figure this out during the show. What we'll call the cult.
We'll
okay.
We'll workshop it. Maybe the chat can help us out.
You know what we'll do? We'll make a roundtable and we'll figure out the name. I love this.
There we go.
Hold on. Let's see this. As much as I love Neighbors, it's hard to fight against 2 guys who have played and proven their worth. But here's the question. Like, if you're telling me that the guy that was in the worst situation in his rookie season outperformed what Jefferson and Chase did in their rookie season, What does that what does that matter? By the way, can I give you you know what we should do? This is a good time, Rob, to give you a little bit of a. How about we talk about basically the situations which would be most comparable for Jefferson and Chase? Actually, they happened in the same year, 2023. Would you guys like to do that? Maybe would that be a little more fair, like situation for situation, pound for pound, if you will? 2023, what happens? Joe Burrow comes in hurt, and then he gets hurt again. Jake Browning comes in at QB, right? And we have Justin Jefferson in that year. He missed a lot of time, right? He got hurt, but Cousins also tore his Achilles. As we know, he's basically without a team for at least going to be until we see what happens after they cut him. And he played with, at that point, Josh Dobbs. Forget the other couple of quarterbacks they threw in that season. But let's talk about 2023. Let's give a little bit of a, veteranness, right? They're so proven. Let's just look at Malik Nabers' rookie season versus those guys in 2023. Be curious, Seth, if you had a guess to how this fight goes.
2023?
Yeah.
So in 2023, I can tell you that Ja'Marr Chase finishes the wide receiver 11 in fantasy points per game.
There you go. There you have it.
That's worse than Malik Nabers.
It is. And actually, to give you more context, wide receiver 11 versus wide receiver 6. But if you just talk fantasy points per game, 16.4 in that year versus 18.2. That's a third-year Ja'Marr Chase. You know what's actually crazy, speaking of which? Ja'Marr Chase had an unbelievable season, right? This last year. No one would fight that. But did you know for the first 3 years of Ja'Marr Chase, his first 3 seasons out of 4, he was averaging 17.99 fantasy points per game. So, that's checks. It's less than 18.2. These are guys that we know, we're talking about. Just wait till you hear this, okay? You want to hear how the Vikings offense has looked regardless of quarterbacks, the yardages they put up. 42-65, 44-50, 48-18, 4,700. They were actually the number 1 team in passing yards in 2023. They threw for 4,700 yards, okay? 2024, 43-79. Those are all north of 4,000, okay? Touchdowns, minimum of 30 touchdowns passing all the years that Justin Jefferson's been there. Bengals with Ja'Marr Chase all the years. 2021, 4,800 passing yards, 4,500 passing yards. Even with Joe Burrow hurt and missing time, Jake Browning, 42-57. 2024, last year, almost 5,000 passing yards, 49-18. Touchdowns, 36, 35, 27, 43. Literally, again, the Giants last year, they threw for 3,521 yards, and they threw for 15 passing touchdowns. He outperformed them. He outperformed them in 2023 both, and he outperformed them in his rookie season relative to theirs. When you look at the situations, those teams are all walking. They're walking to 4,000 yards. Jake Browning, 4,000 plus yards. Situationally, get ready for this. Malik Nabers, while on the field, accounted for 39.1% of the Giants' receiving yards. Okay? To give you context, do you know what 39% or more? We're talking Julio Jones when he had 1,871 receiving yards. That was 40.66% of the Falcons' offense. There's been extremely rare scenarios where a player accounts for 39% of a team's receiving yards. There's only actually one receiver that's ever thrived from 2015 to 2024 in a horrible passing offense. His name is Malik Nabers, and yes, he was a rookie.
Yeah. If you haven't made a video about that, you need to, because it's
coming out tomorrow. I'll give you the whole thing tomorrow on BDG Dynasty channel. But I was you know what, man? I got Seth on. Fuck it. We're gonna unveil some of these stats, man. I can't just keep them for myself.
Because Joe Burrow and their defense should be bad again, so they're probably going to be playing in a lot of shootouts. So the situation should be the same for Ja'Marr Chase, so you can project that forward. But there's going to be a lot more, you would think. I mean, there's not much, as you said, there's not much way to go but up. 15 passing touchdowns in that offense. And I know that the Giants bolstered their defensive line, so you could say, well, maybe their defense is going to be good. They're going to play in some slugfest. I don't know. But the point is that there's not much more way to go down, and he still performed admirably or above what these other receivers performed in similar situations. So I think it's a great point to make. And, there's always this fight that I have with consensus versus like digging into the raw numbers in the film and all this research that we do to prove a point. And as I'm listening to you just say all those facts and numbers, I'm thinking, and I think all good fantasy football analysts and should do this and just reevaluate your position and go back to see like what was my position on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase? Why did I feel that way? And now I have all this new information, and now I can reassess and potentially make a better decision in my ranking. So yeah, you laid it out very well, and that's I'd be excited to see that video when it comes out.
Cool, man. I'll make sure to drop it in our South Harmon Discord, even though it is going to go on the BDG Dynasty channel. I'll just tell you, I was going to put it on ours, and as I got through it, like I put so much work into getting the video even done. I was like, dude, to edit this the way I'd like to, it's not going to happen. I'm gonna need my guy Tony. Shout out Tony. Actually, is leaving BDGE. He's been editing the majority of my videos over there. Great video editor. Sad to see him go from BDGE, but he will be editing this one, and it should be out at some point tomorrow. If not, definitely on Thursday. I'm sorry, on Thursday. Tomorrow is Thursday. On Friday. What I was gonna say too. You know what's an interesting thing? You're talking about that. I guess when I was really green, not that I'm still not green, I'm learning a lot here. I get a lot of things terribly wrong still. Shout out Noah Fant last year, okay? For those that don't know. But when I first started, I would just have an opinion, right? And I would essentially, if I was giving you stats or information relative to that, I would be kind of cherry picking, if that makes sense, right? I'd be kind of like looking only for confirmation bias and just give you that. What I do now, typically when I'm going into something like this or a deep dive on comparisons, if I have a strong feeling, like I go into it looking for confirmation bias, but also along the way looking and seeing any red flags. Now, I'm not telling you there's zero red flags with Nabers, but we already the thing is the groupthink already is talking about the red flags. Like the groupthink very strongly saying, well, he just got force fed the football, inefficient targets, and they're not going to be a good team. Like, I didn't really find anything aside from that we already still know. But one of the things about this one, and this happens every now and again when I'm feeling strongly about something, like the more I dug, the crazier things looked as far as the immediate future, right? Like 2025, what it looks like for his production. And then, looking at metrics, comparing him, like I didn't expect him to, and I didn't really think and expect him to in the playoffs outperform those guys on a points per game basis. I didn't expect to see all the things that I was looking at when I'm going through this data. One of the crazy things though, I just dug this one up as I was making this video. You talk about like what the future is going to be holding. Okay. So did you know that this team is supposed to be really bad again next year? I think you probably knew that, right?
Yeah.
Over under 5.5 wins, which there's only one team. You can see them. You can see their logo behind me. It's an elf. Okay. It's not the dog, although you could be the dog pound or the elf. The Browns, the only team that has the worst win total than them, 4.5. Crazy thing, though. I don't know if you saw the schedule release. So, toughest strength of schedule in the NFL normally always goes to a team that is really good, because the way they do the schedule is they try to play the games that they're allowed to change, right? They're going to be able to put basically the division winner typically against other division winners. The toughest strength of schedule this year is the Giants. Have you seen their schedule? I don't know, Seth. If you want to, could you pull it up? Could you pull it up?
Yeah,
we go through this game by game. Cool. Because what I wanted to talk about is basically, right, other teams at 5.5 wins. Titans, 5.5. 29th strength of schedule. So that's extremely easy. Saints, 5.5. 31st strength of schedule. Jets, 5.5. 26th strength of schedule. There's a case to be made when we talk about Jackson Dart's the big wild card in this thing, right? And honestly, I would be doing anybody a disservice to try to compare what he did in college to the way they're going to use him when they're going to put him in the Giants. Like trying to comp that out would not be smart, because I don't have enough info for that. What I will tell you though is, if Jackson Dart performs well with Malik Nabers, it's already going to be reflective in Jackson Dart's cost and Malik's cost and how that moves forward. Like if we're talking about this time next year, right? In the scenario, though, that the Giants don't win a lot of games and Jackson Dart doesn't really show very well, do you know what's going to happen? they're going to be one of the worst teams in football in the 2026 class. And guess what else is going to happen? GM, Schoen, Coach, Dayball are both on the hot seat, right? They're going to be gone. So just think about this for a second. Teams that have brought in a new GM and a new coach the year after drafting a quarterback, going back to 2005, none. Never happened. Zero. None. There's 3 scenarios with a new coach, one of which we know pretty well, the Josh Rosen, Kyler Murray one, right? That's Cliff Kingsbury. The other ones are Urban Meyer getting let go, and what did they have? They had Trevor Lawrence, number 1 pick in the draft, and what was generational quarterback. We have now the third and final, Ben Johnson. Like, Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams are pros as far as reasons for the coach to go there. Basically, the one quarterback that didn't look good is Josh Rosen. He was taken at 10th overall. Even the GM who selected him, Steve Keim, was like, nah, let's bring in Kyler Murray. I'm trying to save my job. If they have a new GM and a new head coach with no ties to Jackson Dart, and he didn't play well in his rookie season, I hate to tell you, I know we did the, bets, and Jackson Dart's a good bet. He still is if he performs well, but we've never seen a new GM and a new head coach come in after drafting a quarterback late in the first round. So I think it's newsworthy and noteworthy because basically for Malik Nabers, if it goes well, regardless of whether it's with Russ or Jameis or Jackson Dart, stock up, production up relative to what we saw last year. If it doesn't go well, we've seen in shitty situations, almost as bad as it gets last year, he can still eat. And in that scenario, we're going to be looking at now the Giants being a top 5 pick in a class in 2026, which has anywhere from like 3 to 5 first-round quarterbacks. So I don't know if you guys know what this is, but it's called checkmate, motherfucker.
So to your point, they're in a division with the Commanders, Cowboys, and Eagles. So let's throw those teams out. But they do open up with the Commanders and then week 2 against the Cowboys. Here are their
That's so
here
savage.
are their opponents outside of the division: Chiefs, Chargers, so AFC West, Saints, Cowboys or Broncos rather, 49ers, Bears, who should be a lot better this year.
Go ahead.
Packers,
Let's go through this game by
Lions.
game and at home and at away, because it's even crazier when you do
Okay.
that. Give me the whole give me the whole run. Let's talk about this.
You want 1 through 17?
Yeah, let's start at the top. Let's
All
go
right.
2025 scheduled Giants. Let's do it.
How about opening up with a slap, just slap in the face at Commanders?
That's a
Week
tough
1.
thing to do, huh? A team that over exceeded expectations almost in every way, including in the playoffs. Brings in Debo. I mean, yeah, that's a tough place. Okay, at Washington. We can chalk that up as an L likely, right?
Yeah, at Cowboys. They're on the road, and I don't think they're as good as the Cowboys, or at least they're on
Not on
par
paper.
with the Cowboys.
Not on paper,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Okay.
So that's probably another L. They're on the road. Chiefs week 3 at home.
I mean, they're back home, but that's a tough opponent, especially that early in the season. Like, I would think seeing the Chiefs on your schedule in September after what took place to them in the Super Bowl is just not regardless. I don't care if you're the Giants or not. You just don't want to see them when Mahomes is going to be that hungry all offseason. To the point you're making here, that one is actually on Sunday Night Football, so you'll get to see that close in person. But one thing to note as well, the NFC and the AFC, so they get paired 4 games, right? They play a different division. They play one division. So the NFC East here gets the AFC West. To your point, keep going.
So they have the Chargers in week 4 at home.
Another AFC West. So they got both these guys at home, but those are, man, those are tough. Those are tough games already.
Yeah, and then they're on the road at the Saints. Now you might think, oh, the Saints might have the worst quarterback room in football now that with Tyler Shuck and the gang.
Yeah,
but
sure.
You're still got to go to New Orleans in the Superdome on the road. It's still not going to be a picnic. But I think that's probably one where you could see them winning. But wouldn't surprise me if they lost either. Week 6 they are at home against the Eagles, Super Bowl champions.
Tough.
Week 7 at Broncos. That's another tough. At
Mile High. Yikes. Yeah. Okay.
Week 8, they play the Eagles twice in 3 weeks. So they're at Philadelphia in Week 8. So
I mean, you get to know your teams in your division pretty well, which crazy things and weird things can happen in the division, but Philly's a different fucking type of animal. Okay. So far, not really friendly. Not that great.
No, and so now we're in the back half. At home against the 49ers, newly paid Brock Purdy.
Nice. I mean, they're not the Niners of old, but that's a tough matchup. You're at home, though.
Yeah. Week 10 at Chicago Bears, at my Chicago Bears. So I'm hoping that's a win for the Bears.
You would hope. I mean, at this point, yeah, you're thinking, okay. Man, this is rough already.
At home against the Packers in Week 11.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then at Detroit in Week 12. Then at New England in Week 13, in which New England should be a much better team this year.
Yeah, but you know what's great? So the worst teams you told me so far are easily New Orleans and New England, but they're both on the road. Okay.
Yep. Then they finally get their bye week in Week 14. So that's another thing too, is they don't get their bye week until late in the season. So that's typically, I mean, I don't know if you polled coaches and where they'd want their bye week, but typically you'd want it somewhere closer in the middle. Not that that's a huge deal, but Week 15 they're back at home against the Commanders. Week 16 at home against the Vikings. Week 17 at Las Vegas Raiders. And then Week 18 at home against the Cowboys. That's a pretty rough schedule.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and basically, right, I think the case is laid out pretty easily going through that schedule. One, they're probably going to be trailing. I'll be honest with you. As far as the way it works with Vegas and odds makers, there's a pretty damn good chance they're not a favorite in a single fucking game this year.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's one, maybe two. I mean, I don't think they're. Yeah, I completely agree. I'm struggling to come up with like more than 2 or 3, maybe.
Right, and obviously maybe, we don't. You know? And that would be like, and probably those scenarios would be like things we can't foresee. Like there's some of these teams might be totally different than we expect. That happens every year in the NFL. With someone gets injured, a bunch of injuries, whatever the case may be, but. Not good. They're probably going to be trailing in a lot of these games, and they're going to have to throw the ball a ton, which one thing the Giants did last year, despite being horrible, was they threw the ball a lot. 8th in the NFL in passing yards, almost 600, 591. They're going to be chucking the ball again. No, not a lot of target competition. Regardless of who it is at quarterback, I would truly argue even Jackson Dart at this point, Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, all more friendly than whatever they threw out at QB last year. So, listen, man, that's the quicker, I shouldn't say quick and dirty version as we're almost an hour in, but that's that's kind of the long-winded way that why I chose Malik Nabers and why I think at this point I get it. I certainly get it. Like it's hard for me to tell you that you shouldn't take a guy like Chase and value him really highly. Jefferson. I'm seeing a lot of Brian Thomas Jr. in the chat. What he did versus. Like I'm not hating on any of these guys for the record. Everything I'm talking about is more pro Nabers. And I'm going to get into doing a little more of a deep dive on BTJ. On the surface, I'll tell you I haven't done the deep dive enough on Brian Thomas Jr. to give you the same type of a thing here. But I will do that. And hopefully if you like the Malik Nabers video and if you've liked this video, let me know that. I'm going to go through and basically try to do something similar with BTJ. Just on the surface, things I've thought about ahead of time and some things that I was looking at in his metrics scare me. However, I'm not sitting here telling you that there's not a lot of really good things to look at with Malik Nabers. I'm sorry. Well, I know that part, but Brian Thomas Jr. So this isn't to hate on these guys. But basically, if you're telling me a 22-year-old in Dynasty did as well as he did in a shitty situation, it's hard for me to say that that's not the guy that I would like to take at wide receiver 1. Even as great as Chase is, and Chase, the one thing about Chase we do know, stability's there, right? If you like, stability, him getting the contract and Burrow having a contract and T. Higgins having this contract, that organization basically wasn't supposed to be able to do that. So they're going to likely have a shitty defense and have to throw the football a lot now. So I'm not trying to tell you that Chase is a bad pick or Jefferson's a bad pick, Brian Thomas, any of these guys are a bad pick. But what I'm telling you is, to me, I view almost everything about Nabers and what I'm looking at, and the more I dug into it, as positives, frankly. So that's my case, man. That is my case. If you have anything else, Seth, any final thoughts or any specifics here on that, let me know, and then we'll get into some questions, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about Brian Thomas Jr. real quick. I know Lawrence was hurt, but I wouldn't consider that nearly as bad of a situation as what Malik Nabers was in. And Brian Thomas Jr. is 22. Not that it's a big deal. Malik Nabers is still just 21 years old. That's not a huge difference. So
sure.
But I think what got people really excited was once the fantasy playoffs rolled around, week 15, 32.5 fantasy points for Brian Thomas Jr. Then the next week, 28.2 fantasy points. Then in championship week, 23.9. So he absolutely crushed the fantasy playoffs. But before that, I mean, there were some good weeks, like in week 7, 22.1 fantasy points, wide receiver 2 week. And then in weeks 4 and 5 were good too. And he threw in a lot of really solid performances throughout, like a lot of wide receiver 2 finishes. But yeah, that's another name. But I wouldn't put it in the same category. It'd be interesting to see, like, if you did a deep dive on it, what you could uncover. But just on the face, I don't think it would be nearly as impressive as what Malik Nabers was able to do. But not saying it wasn't impressive.
No, for sure. I mean, and I think what I can say about it is where my confliction comes from is also a positive for him. Like, if you told me that the second half of the season, essentially when he really started upping his target share, is what the full picture will look like, I mean, it's fucking going to be wheels up for Brian Thomas Jr. I can just tell you that off the rip.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
There's part of that that's a little concerning for me. Is not, they did bring in Travis Hunter. That's not necessarily a true concern for me, but his uptick in targets really came, not that they were good last year, they weren't, but when Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram were out of the lineup. And I'm not, none of this is to knock BTJ, okay? BTJ, what he did in the last part of the year, and I talked about how Malik outperformed those guys in the playoffs. Brian Thomas also outperformed Chase and Jefferson in the playoffs. So, again, I don't really have much but positive to say about Brian Thomas at the moment. I just don't have enough contextually to give you the same deep dive. But if you just look, he played 17 last year versus Malik's 15. On a fantasy points per game, it was lower than was all the guys that we just talked about. There's some metrics that are not quite as, across his entire season, as impressive. But I have no problem putting him anywhere in 7, 6, 5, wherever you want to put him. He's what he did last year also highly, highly impressive, and his best games came with Mac Jones, and I'd imagine the stats don't look very great with Mac Jones in that time last year. So I'm excited to get into the deep dive of him, but also kind of look. One thing that's just interesting, we let me just see here. Where was this at? There was a come on, where are we at here? There was a chat here. Here it is. Nope, that's not it. But it's from this guy, Neighbors Hood. How about Neighbors Hood? I like that, Neighbors Hood. That'll be our fan group.
Yeah, and I had a team name actually last year. Won't you be my neighbors? I don't know if that's like Mr. Rogers. I don't know if Mr. Rogers is cool enough, but
I can get behind it. And
I like the Neighbors Hood though. That's good.
Yeah, I mean. So what I will say is, sure, I'm sure there are some things that he did better than Malik. One of which is 10 touchdowns, and 10 touchdowns. Typically, like when touchdowns are the leading thing, or one of the bigger drivers, like that's actually more of a red flag for me. Is like touchdowns just aren't a sticky metric. Although this dude is in LSU his last year, I mean, touchdown maker. He could just be a touchdown god. I'm not saying that he didn't do things better than Malik. I mean. Yards per catch, I would hope it's better than Malik Nabers because they just had to try to check it down to him. But, yeah, again, BTJ, very impressive. I know Barry's going to keep pumping that because Barry doesn't like the Malik Nabers over BTJ thing. That's okay, though. It's all right, DB. I can respect it. What were we saying here? Did you give me something? Oh, yeah, they're all from LSU, guys. These are all LSU. As much as we talk about Ohio State receivers, might just be LSU is running this fucking world at the receiver position. So let me ask you, Seth, did you have anything else that you wanted to discuss on either that topic or anywhere else in Dynasty front of mind before we get to a few questions here? And by the way, now we're about to get into questions, all right?
Wow, this I could take this in many. I'll just give you the hottest take that we have on the Dynasty Roundtable, which, by the way, I know I plugged it earlier in the show.
Please plug it
again. If you like
again.
Dynasty content, Dynasty Roundtable on YouTube, podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We are, and I'd be interested to hear what you think about this. I maybe have an idea of what you're thinking, but Rashee Rice is inside of our top 10. We have him at wide receiver 9 at the Dynasty Roundtable.
Oh man, I wish Mike was here because he's anti-Rashee. But let's hear it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So going back to last year, and this kind of happened with Xavier Worthy, right? When things start to click with Kansas City, things really start to like the wheels start to go and find their place. And that started to happen for Rashee Rice back in week 12 of 2023, where he finishes the wide receiver 3 that week, 24.7 fantasy points. And the snap share up to that point was hit or miss. He was 40% here, 30% there. But after that, it was wheels up. And so when you take those weeks, and we're just talking about the fantasy relevant weeks from week 12 through 17, and then the 2024 season was what it was. Like he got hurt in week 4, so the fantasy points per game, like that metric, like you should probably throw out week 4 because he had exactly 0 fantasy points. Those 9 weeks, I get it. It's a short sample size, but it's impressive. I think he was a top. I don't have it like the numbers, like the totals pulled up. I believe we had him as like a top 5 in fantasy points per game through that stretch.
Yeah.
And thinking about who the Chiefs have on their roster, right? If like the same thing happened with Xavier Worthy last year, like the Chiefs needed somebody to fill that role, and Xavier Worthy towards the end of the season was essentially filling that role. And
right.
I get the argument that some people are concerned that maybe Xavier Worthy has just taken over that role. Like that's the antithesis of the argument.
Mm-hmm.
But my counterpoint to that would be, but who's better suited to perform the role, a 165-pound wide receiver or somebody like Rashee Rice? So
sure.
We are, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to, and we know this, you don't have to pay the wide receiver 9 price. We just are extremely bullish because we see Xavier Worthy more as, and this is going to sound like an insult,
say it.
His first touchdown was on a jet sweep, for crying out loud. Like he's a player that you don't necessarily want to play 90% of the snaps because that doesn't work with his body. Like I don't know if we've seen more Tank Dells play out than we've seen. It doesn't work. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's the working theory why we have Rashee Rice as high as we do, and yeah. I get it. Like we're way ahead of consensus on him, but that's our hottest take that we have right now because we think, and the whole criminal case is lingering out there, but it kind of looks like that's being pushed off into the future, and the more that they push that off into the future, the more murky it becomes as far as like does how severe is the suspension going to be? Is there going to be a suspension? Is he going to get a slap on the wrist? We don't really know anything. So for all those reasons and more, we are extremely high on Rashee Rice, but are you going to slay me like you slayed me with the Malik Nabers and the Justin Jefferson? I'm willing to hear the antithesis if you got it.
No, I mean, well, I'll say this. Coming off of the injury and the small sample size are definitely going to be part of it. To me, I'll say this about the situation moving forward. They clearly, in my estimation, and I think most people's, they need an alpha, a true one to emerge. There's probably a case, I think, that Mahomes can support both Worthy and Rashee. Now, one of the things for me with Worthy, I mean, we saw what he did in the playoffs. He did have some, garbage time touchdown and stuff in the Super Bowl. But, like, the Worthy one is kind of interesting to me, honestly, where his value's at. This is a guy that earned double-digit targets. So we're talking basically when Rashee went out at what week was that? It was pretty early in the year, wasn't it?
Week 4, like right at the start of that game too.
Okay, so week 4. So from week 5 on, he earned double-digit targets twice. He only earned double-digit targets twice all year. And on that note, like just raw production, I believe he was. I don't want to misput this number, so let me go take a look here. Receiving yards, 638, right? So, like, that's 100 yards less than Rome had, for the record, and people are, scared about Rome in certain ways, which I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because I already gave you a video on that. But, like, when I just look at Xavier Worthy's stats, this is not the antithesis that you're wanting, but to me, Xavier Worthy, while looked better in certain parts later in the year, and you definitely can see in the last few weeks, right? Fantasy football playoffs, wide receiver 16, 12, 15. Maybe that's the Xavier Worthy we're all going to finally get. And maybe that is what he is going to be moving forward. But when I look at his entire season, man, there's just really nothing that jumps out at me like, okay, that metric, you love it. Like less than 100 targets. As far as like yards after the catch, 16. He doesn't have anything when I look at all of his body of work last year, or even pieces of advanced metrics that make me say, damn, like that Xavier Worthy really was humming. So to me, Rashee Rice definitely could still be the one when he comes back. I just wonder how quickly he will perform coming off of the injury that he had. But
that's a good point. He is going to be coming off of an injury, and there is some risk there for sure.
And I would just point to actually, let me just see. With Rashee Rice, was it just a ACL?
I can look here real quick. I think so. A torn LCL.
LCL, okay, LCL. Which, but it wasn't multi-ligament, which is what I was getting ready to look for.
Yeah, I think you're right on with that.
Okay, so because like multi ligaments typically concern me a lot more, and it's funny it's the LCL. I thought it was an ACL and an LCL, so it was just the LCL, which. I think he could start slow. I was going to give you like the Chris Godwin when he first came back from multi-ligament knee injury and he had a pretty rough start to his season. I think that's just it might be a slow start coming off of the knee injury, but I think big picture, if Rashee Rice is going to be the one in this offense, we've seen him be absolutely ridiculous. And I know it was a small sample size, but man, when he was playing last year, there was a case to be made that he was going to be in the elite territory with a guy like Puka Nacua, how he was performing early in the season. So I'll say this: I don't have a strong draw on it because I think Mahomes could go a number of different ways, and I don't know how Rice is going to be off the injury. But to say that if he's playing well, he's a top 10 dynasty wide receiver, I don't even think that's anything crazy. Although I'm not saying it's not a hot take at the moment because where is he? He's wide receiver 18. So. But like, tell me right now if he's playing very well, looks like the one again in Kansas City, that he's not ahead of guys like T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson. Like, the case isn't. I don't think it's phony. I don't think it's crazy. I don't have a ton of pushback for you. You wish Mike was here because he would have given you far more than I. And also, let me shout out real quick to Koopa Troopa. Shout out to Grinding the Edge, which he does every week for us. He talked about. Rashee Rice kind of in depth a little more. If you want to go check that out, check out his podcast on South Harmon's podcast feed. He went through that quite in depth. Basically, it was more from the standpoint of how receivers like him in his situation. I think it was based on injury, did moving forward. But check that one out. And what I'm going to do here real quick is give us the old Fizzle South Harmon AMA intro. We're getting late in the day. I don't want to keep Seth all day because he's got kids, but we're going to get a couple questions in, all right?
Let's do it.
Let's get it. If I can, I will do it.
I will answer your question, Rob Gronkowski. We can answer that on the other side of this, but just wanted to throw in real quick, 19.5 fantasy points per game over those 9 weeks. I knew I had it somewhere. I just didn't have it pulled up for Rashee Rice, so it's not bad. That's
pretty good. All right, Fizz, take it away.
Welcome to South Harmon. Welcome to South Harmon. Hey, welcome to South Harmon. We glad you here today. Another AMA. Ask me anything. Super chat is cool if you wanna pay to play. Like and subscribe. That's what we really appreciate. appreciate. Let me introduce you to the tear down king. Mike McNutted, ask your questions, he'll answer anything. ATM, you know I don't put them graphics on the screen. Glad you tapped in now, stay tapped in for the team. Hey, everything is posted. Go follow the socials. South Harmon, FF tag us if we get noticed. Welcome to South Harmon, we glad you here today. Welcome to South Harmon, we glad you here today. Another AMA. Welcome to South Harmon, we glad you here today.
Yes, sir. By the way, Jay, crediting Big Ham for it's the neighborhood. It catches. I like it. Rob's questions up for you, Seth, and we're gonna get into questions here, man. Old school AMA intro. Listen, we don't put it at the front anymore for algorithmic reasons. All right, but it's goated. So say no more. Go ahead, Seth. Take it away. How'd you become a Bears fan? And people are asking you to ask me all kind of questions. So do your thing.
All right. Well, I'm originally from Southeast Iowa. So if you're from the Midwest, you know it's kind of a melting pot of sports fandom. And my heart, right, my true sports fan heart lies in baseball with the St. Louis Cardinals. Like, I've been a Cardinals fan my entire life, but I became an NFL, like the obsession with the NFL came later, like in high school. And I've always been a Hawkeyes fan, right? So I like teams that can't score and have terrible quarterbacks. So, of course, what team did I gravitate toward? The team in the NFL that couldn't score, had a terrible quarterback. Give me the Chicago Bears. So this is my team, man. This is my team. That's how I became a Bears fan.
Well, I can respect that. I guess I will say choosing misery is interesting though, because as a Browns fan, I feel like I got misery, but I didn't. It wasn't chosen for me. I was actually born. What's crazy is my dad is a Steelers fan. I was born in Pittsburgh, but I was in Ohio, Akron area when I was less than 1. So it's all I know. And tough misery. You and I both with our team, man. Tough.
I will say the Bears, when I started following them, they were really good in the early 2000s with Urlacher and Briggs and the boys. And then it's kind of been all downhill. They made a Super Bowl with Rex Grossman at quarterback. I know they didn't win it, but Devin, on the shoulders of Devin Hester and Robbie Gould, scoring all their points for him. I felt like that for a while. That was the Bears' offensive strategy, just like get into field goal range and don't fuck it up so Robbie can kick the field goal.
I love that. Yeah, there's a lot of moments, man. There's a lot of moments. Patty's got a good question here. I'm going to get to that, Patty. I was going to say, where was it? There was another question I had starred, and I may have to get back to it. Give me 1 second here, Seth, to try and find it. I'm scrolling through. There's all this neighbors chat, but go ahead. What do you got?
It's kind of cool that Rob Gronkowski comes to the AMA. I didn't know.
I know.
Dude,
since he couldn't get the what is that commercial he's always doing? You got to be a
USAA.
Yeah, USAA. There you go.
USAA.
Since he couldn't get that, he now comes to South Harmon. We hook him up.
Yeah,
but,
that's good. That's nice of you. You give him the Savage tier.
Yeah,
but he's probably still got to pay for it. I mean, he can pay for it. He's Rob Gronkowski. I mean,
right. If you know the story, he actually lived off of one of the two sources of income. Basically, he either didn't spend, I forget which one. He either didn't spend his game checks or he didn't spend his endorsement money. One or the other, and he has all that basically just pocketed. So we love Rob, though. Rob's always here. And what I will get to is I'll go ahead and pull up Patty Mills' question. So Patty Mills asked this super basic question: how do you get trades flowing in a not very trade centric league? I will tell you, Patty, I actually did a video on not quite this question, similar though, very similar, where it was basically how to kickstart your inactive league. Seth, I'm curious though for you if you have any questions or thoughts on this, any of your teams in Dynasty. What if this is something you've covered before? Just your generic thoughts, man.
Yeah, I would. There are only, and this is probably not a good way to start answering this question. I promise I will answer it.
I know where you're going, so go ahead and do it.
There are only a few reasons why I would ever leave a dynasty league, and one of those reasons is because nobody is active. So it's kind of like, what's the point of this? The whole point of fantasy football is for us to, have fun and send out dumb trade offers and get them rejected, and go back and forth and give our buddies shit and all this stuff, which is why it's one of the best things in the world. Like I still sometimes I ask myself, why do I love fantasy football so much? And it's really hard to put into words. So I think that encapsulates it. Like the shit that, like, and why the logo here is so good. It's all the shit talk and the
man,
and just giving
the locker room all with your boys vibes,
Exactly. And there's nothing better than, a dynasty startup or a redraft league, draft live is great. But so if you're in this league, you want to commit to it. I'll say this, sleeper's great with the DMs. So you got to get inside, you got to get in those DMs. You got to be annoying.
Down in the DMs.
Like if maybe it's just a case of, you need somebody to be the grease for the wheel that's squeaky. You just gotta keep putting stuff in. Like maybe you have to give the right person the right amount of shit in the league chat. I don't know, but just keep shooting those offers, because ultimately that just shows that you are, really a better dynasty player and a more engaged dynasty player if you're active.
Yeah.
And that's in itself an edge, because it shows that you're on top of things and you're grinding the waiver wire and you're grinding trades, and these people who are not active, I mean, it's annoying, but it's a good thing because they're not on top of it the way you are. So that's an advantage right there. So yeah, you could also, and I wouldn't have this be the first thing that I would do, but you could also, shoot your commish a message saying, hey, how can we collaborate, to use a terrible word, and try to make this a better experience for everybody, because it kind of seems like nobody wants to be here, like how can we revitalize this thing? But I'm interested, Adam, like what are some of your tips?
Yeah. I mean, there's the tough part about it. So here, Patty actually put a secondary comment. Let me see if I can grab this up. He says that I send out so many offers. LOL. The league is active with chat and stuff, but I want trades, and of course you do. If you go check out, this is a piece of content I did last offseason. It's on the BDGE Dynasty channel. You can check out. So I believe it's called How to Jumpstart Your Inactive League, right? And I should have probably put like myself with jumper cables or something as the thumbnail. If I could go back and redo that one, maybe I will. But the thing is here, it depends on the situation. I think everything for me, the way I approach it, can be slightly tweaked based on the situation. But just on this generic topic, right now, if this is still the case where it's dead, I think understanding the cycle and dynasty and activity is important. So if you're telling me you're asking me this question in February, I'd probably tell you to, like, in general, just understand that the activity really kicks up around the NFL draft, right? Because people don't have enough information and they can kind of just want to clam up until they have the information further, right? Who's going to be drafted where? What rounds are they? What is my 110 that I have no idea what it looks like, right? Get closer to concrete information, then trades tend to happen. Now, if you're at this point and it's still a problem, I would say it's tough because in general, I think one of the problems that we're looking in and moving forward, right? The dynasty gamer, I think, is becoming sharper and sharper, right? Not saying that every gamer out there is unbelievably sharp, but that the average dynasty gamer is sharper. And I think by that, to your point, like with locker room talk, one of the things that seems like anymore is becoming even more problematic. People do not want to lose a trade, right? They don't want to lose a dynasty trade. So sometimes that can end up with like people only want to win a dynasty trade. And then it's good luck getting a trade done where you're clearly winning and everybody sees it as such. That can be problematic. One of the things I like to do in a scenario like this, and I have done, and during this video you can see with kickstarting it, is I call it the snowball effect. So the snowball effect in its essence is this, right? There's a lot of inactivity. And one of the things inactivity can breed is more inactivity, because here's how everybody typically looks at Sleeper and their dynasty team. They look from the top down. Okay, so my roster looks like this. It looks pretty good. They can kind of compare it against the league. You might go over to the lab or wherever your places are to compare what your team looks like relative to the league. And there's not trades happening. But the snowball effect happens. I get one trade kicked off. Now, how I get this done, it probably isn't going to look like the most desirable trade for me. You're not going to probably get the snowball started by sending out some slam dunk offer for your team. But what I'm just looking to do, even if it's a small trade, even if I'm kind of losing on the deal, I think one of the biggest things that's problematic now, even if I have to go against my roster construction, one of the things that's talked about more than ever in Dynasty is I want to have my roster construction. So when I'm trying to trade with people, I might hit a roadblock with you because you're like, hey, nah, I'm not moving. I have 3 quarterbacks. I'm not moving them. That's my roster construction says I need these 3. So to try to pull away from your roster construction makes it really hard to actually go about trades. So for me, I know what my roster construction I want it to be, but I'm willing to go away from it and get back to it. And the snowball effect, I just want to get one trade kickstarted. Even if I'm 90% losing it on the deal, even if I'm sending out a third for a player that really isn't a third, right? Something to get this started. Because as one trade happens, people go, what do they get? They do dopamine hit. Hey, let me check on my phone. Oh, okay. Adam got this deal done. Interesting. And whoever the other person is. In that 24-hour window, in that hopefully same day, I want to get another trade done. Because then what happens is you're going to have this FOMO effect in the league. And also, as these trades take place, you're going to basically look at, damn, I don't really like where my team sits again anymore relative to other teams in the league. Even if I'm losing the trade and someone else's team is looking better, this kind of creates this FOMO effect, and 2 trades happen. Then you're starting to get probably DMs and discussions from people that were not really looking to make trades. And typically you'll see just from 1, 2, 3 trades that, boom, the lights get kicked right back on. That's only, though, to your point, Seth, if you're seeing 3 years of this league and it's no one's trading the whole time, I don't know what to tell you about that. That probably means the league ain't going to trade. But if you're looking to just get the kickstart, right, if you've seen it be active before and it's not now, that's typically the way I go about it.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, if it's active and people are engaging with you, going back and forth in DMs, like, gather as much information in that process as possible. In a way that I've gotten trades done is I figure out what trade calculator they use. Because sometimes they'll do it for me. They'll say, "Have you ever got the? I can't believe you'd send me this trade."
They tell you how bad your offer was because the screenshot of the trade count comes back for sure.
Yeah, and that's information, man. Okay, they use the Dynasty Trade Calculator, or they use the one on Player Profiler, or whatever the case is, or they use the Dynasty or the Keep Trade Cut one, whatever. Like, so you can go and say, all right, I'll plug this trade that I want to send into this trade calc, and we'll see how they're going to view it, because this is how they're going to view the trade from a fairness standpoint. So, and also, what are their favorite teams? Like, obviously, I wear mine on right here.
Helmet scouting, but the logo scouting, right? yeah, for sure.
So maybe somebody like me wants Caleb Williams. I don't know. Maybe maybe a lesser player might be more attainable, like Roma Dunze or something. If you're not a big fan, you can throw Roma Dunze into a deal and facilitate a trade that way. But information is power in Dynasty, and I would definitely engage in those DMs. I mean, Sleeper makes it so easy.
Yeah, let me piggyback on this, because it's interesting you said that, because to me, I think one of the biggest missed things in general for me, I'm looking specific. Let me just talk about me and not everybody else what they're missing, because I miss plenty of stuff too. When I'm in a trade negotiation, whether that's an actual offer, DMs, whatever, and I'm sending out offers, I'm not leaving unless I literally can get nothing on the other end, unless this person literally will not respond to me. I'm leaving every time with a trade or information. Period. And I think one of the biggest things people struggle with is, like, they'll get blue balls, so to speak, right? You get a bunch of trade talk done and then nothing happens. and people get really upset, and then they just go away. And now you're further away from the trade, and you probably didn't take anything away from that experience, right? So information is actually how I got the most recent example I have of the snowball started. So in this team, I have this team in Fade the Fetal, actually. Okay, I'll give you the quick POV from the start, where I had some work to do, frankly, on this league. And I basically knew, like, in order to get this league, my team in this league, a better spot, I'm going to need lots of trades. This isn't going to happen with just one draft pick or one trade. At the time, I had T-Rock's 2025 first, which we've already had the 25 draft now. But shout out my guy T-Rock. He has this little thing he does, which he basically leverages away future picks out, not the coming up class. So if we're in the 2024 season, right, he will have leveraged out this 25 pick. Now he needs it back because he doesn't want to end up getting to the point where his team stinks and he's giving me a 102, 103, 104, right? He sends me a bunch of offers trying to get the pick back. One of which was Nico Collins. Now, it was Nico Collins and his pick back in a third. And at the time, this is where Nico was not currently as established as he is now, and he was a little bit more polarizing. He hadn't gotten quite paid yet, although that happened shortly after. So on the surface, I'm kind of like, man, I don't know if I really want to do this. Trying to come out of a rebuild, and I'm not sure I want to make this bet on Nico. However, I've been having discussions with Guzman. Shout out to these guys if they're here. Justin Guzman, I did see, was in the chat earlier. Goose has Jordan Love, and he has CJ Stroud. And he was trying to, and we were discussing about trading my Jaden Reed to him. And he was telling me he wanted to get that stack. And I knew he had stacks as something he valued and cared about. So that information I had, right? Nico Collins wasn't on my roster. So I wasn't able to say when I'm discussing with him, a few days prior, okay, what would you pay for Nico, right? So long story short, now that I'm having that offer on the table, knowing he values stacks and he has Stroud, I'm like, damn. You know what? Get the trade kickstarted to accept this offer, even though I'm not sure on it. But I might be able to just play the middleman and flip Nico to Goose. And sure enough, the next day I traded, I basically traded a 25 generic first of T-Rocks and a third for Nico. And then I traded Nico for the 104, which became Malik Nabers. So how that ended up working out, let's say I would have taken Rome there, and Rome stunk. Like, the point isn't necessarily like, oh, that trade now is clear and obvious, but basically because I went against my process and having to play the middleman here, I used the information to get two trades happened in a row there. And then, before you know it, there was a third trade that went down that wasn't mine because activity had been picked up. So that I guess is the way that one happened, and typically what I would try to do. All the information you have on your league mates, Patty, try putting it together, see what you can come up with, what type of offers people would be willing to accept. Go back and look at prior transactions. Go look at like their history, what they have been trading for, what their team's trying to do. What have they sent you in DMs? What offers have they sent you recently? Is there any players that you can clearly pick out, like, okay, he's after this player? So those are kind of some key things to look at.
Yeah, that's well said. Yes, you want to come away with information or a trade. You're coming away with something in those negotiations for sure, and that's pretty well done getting Malik Nabers out of that deal. That's a fine example there.
It worked out well. That one did. It sure did. And I will tell you, T-Rock, shout out my guy T-Rock. He's heard me tell the story a couple times before, and he loves it. But Chuck says, would y'all rather have Stroud versus Nix or Williams? Need anything plus? So this is Stroud, or would you rather have Stroud or Nix and Williams, I'm assuming? But this would be JMO, I'm assuming, as well. I'm trying to figure out, Chuck.
Or, I mean, it could be Caleb Williams. That's where my head went. Like, which quarterback would you like out of those three? Like Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, or CJ Stroud?
Here, Chuck, and here's the thing. Chuck's new. We'll let you have that, Chuck. We always are welcoming our Charles Barkley into the group. So if you go over, I'll tell you this. For Discord, patreon.com/South Harmon. Seth and I are in the Discord. A lot of people in the chat are in the Discord. It is honestly one of my favorite things. Patreon.com, whatever tier you sign up for, that will get you access to our Discord. It is only it is paid. It's not a free thing. It's kind of like I like to call it this. Mike likes to call it this. It's only the cheapest tier is $1 a month, but it's trying to have a cover to kind of keep the riffraff out. If you know what I mean. Sometimes when you make them free, you can get some people causing a bunch of ruckus. That's how you get to the Discord. Our website is southharmonff.com. There's all kinds of stuff to check out with us, but the podcast is definitely something to do. Seth has already plugged it, and I'll plug it again for him. His YouTube channel, Dynasty Roundtable. So also let us know. Oh, Caleb Williams. Oh, he's saying which of the three. I see. That was what I was kind of considering too. Okay. Stroud, Nix, Williams, Caleb. How do you have him ranked? I know you got to have Caleb as a Bears fan at 1, right?
I honestly, I had a sales video, and this is a complicated, and I don't know if I'm the person who should be giving this take. I don't know if I'm trying to be responsible here. God damn it. I think the stability of Stroud, I think you would have to put him ahead of Caleb Williams, because I know there's not as much upside. Because the upside case for Caleb Williams is there. You know, he had a lot of rushing touchdowns at USC. Obviously, look what the Bears did this offseason. I mean, they couldn't have set it up any better for him. Like, if he does not succeed in this situation, I don't know where he's going to succeed in his career. I mean, this is stupid. It's unbelievable.
Sure.
So I would have Caleb Williams right behind Stroud, just for no other reason than a risk avoidance play, and then Bo Nix would be next. But how do you have him ranked?
Yeah, so I mean, I will say, and I'm actually going to pull up mine just to make sure I'm not capping, or I don't need to adjust them, which is always something I'm doing, trying to tweak them all the time. For me, though, I will say this: if you're looking for the stability, right? If you're looking for what's the safest asset and the least likely to cause you problems of these three, the clear one is going to be CJ Stroud. Like, CJ Stroud, to me, what he did in his rookie season, them drafting more weapons for him this year, I think his value insulation is crazy. I don't think he's going to go outside of the top 12, 14 for sure this year. Even if he gets hurt, to be completely honest with you, I don't think he'll go past much for like 14. What I will say, though, is Caleb Williams, to me, would be the one. I have him one of these three. And the reasons is I'm always trying to, when I can, the way I play, kind of in similar tiers, I'm going to take my home run swing. Caleb Williams hits with his Ben Johnson offense and everything that they've afforded him. I mean, there's a reason he was going at 101 in the drafts last year, or Marv. I mean, obviously I'm not arguing for him ahead of J-Day anymore, but there's a reason he's going that high, and people really think he's talented. And when you look at Ben Johnson as the play caller, all this offense, man, the upside's crazy. What people don't really bake in, I don't think, enough with Caleb, if Caleb doesn't succeed in this offense, in this situation, I don't think Caleb has value insulation, because we've never actually seen, like with Trevor Lawrence, we kept giving him passes, but he also performed pretty damn well. He was a top 12 quarterback earlier in his career. We've never seen the quarterback this highly touted that got this good of a situation, this great of an opportunity, piss it away. So I think for Caleb Williams, how he performs this season, like on paper, if he had a season similar to last year, this year, his value's in trouble. Bo Nix, I think, would be my third, and it's not to hate on him. These guys are, I think, actually all, and I just checked, back to back here. I like Bo Nix a lot. I think one thing for him is if he starts slow this year, I think people that last year were quieted by his performance, they might get loud again. The hater, so to speak, might come out for Bo Nix. But these guys are all top 12 options. The need anything plus thing, I guess, is where I'm a little bit wondering what that part means. But Chuck, I hope that answers your question. And if it doesn't, ask again.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah, with Caleb, it's one of those things where all the stars are aligned to where it should work. And the reason why all these quarterbacks, especially in a Superflex league, are the assets that you want, and in my opinion, as I've gotten older and wiser, quarterback early is the way I go in these Superflex startups. And I'll tell you why, is because when you look at the history of the value on these, especially the quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams that go number 1 overall, and Cam Ward this year, they hold their value just forever. Like look at Trevor Lawrence. Like he's still he has not come through for us the way that we thought, but he's still a top, like he's quarterback 17, I guess, on keep trade cut right now.
Yeah.
That's honestly a little bit lower than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But still, like he's still a valuable asset in Dynasty. Maybe not as valuable as we thought, but
well, I mean,
these guys hold their value forever.
Yeah, and I mean, and T-Law is an example where it's like, man, he's held his value, I think, even further than people could imagine. And T-Law is one of those assets where, like, if you look at it over time, it has dipped, but he's never really had that sharp, like, downward trend in his. It's kind of just drifted down over time, where he's still, though, in the range. For example, on Keep Trade Cut, if you look at it, right, where I saw you have it at quarterback 17, it's a big tier on the quarterbacks all the way up to quarterback 14. So, you know, he's still right in the mix with a lot of these players. And they drafted Travis Etienne. They're going to get rid of him soon. Travis Hunter, how about? That does, thank you. He says, that does, thank you. I just added the plus segment because I have Stroud and was thinking, cool, no problem at all. All right, so let's answer a couple more questions, and Seth, we will get you out of here. Appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a blast. Been fun.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. What do you add to JJ Mack? So I do like that. I've been saying for a while, like, although I put Nabers ahead of Jefferson, that we need to give him Jefferson more respect when it comes to McCarthy. JJM, not just JJ, but JJ Mack. I've never heard that one. What would you add to JJ Mack to snag Ashton Jeanty? I love that too. I never see someone call him by his just first name, Ashton. 12-team Superflex, start 11, PPR, fairly standard scoring.
Okay, so
what's your team look like too? But go ahead,
yeah. Without any context, I would say, man, if it's a Superflex, I'm honestly, if I'm giving up JJ McCarthy, I don't really want to give up a ton more. I mean, my first thought, and you tell me if this is way off base, but a player like maybe T. Higgins, you know, does that feel right? Or Jonathan Taylor?
Is
definitely. That too much? Or is that in the right ballpark?
I think value-wise, that's probably what it's going to take. I think if you can afford to get off of McCarthy and T, that's an appropriate offer. I mean, appropriate value-wise. I think what's going to make it tough is to get to Jeanty from JJ McCarthy. There's a value gap there that's pretty large. Even if you really like JJ McCarthy, even if you're really high on quarterbacks in Superflex, the plus is going to be a significant asset or player. So anytime for me, even in a start 11 like this, which start 11 is where I'm starting to be more comfortable splitting assets, frankly, right? When I'm getting off of two legitimate players, like we're talking a first for sure. All these players you're talking about, JT, T. Higgins, they're a first plus or something in Dynasty, minimum of a first. I start to like really think, is this worth it? Because you're going to be deteriorating, you know, some serious assets from your team. To me, here's what I'll say about it. If you've built up if you've rebuilt or retooled enough to where you're flush at assets, these are the type of moves I can make then and be okay with it, knowing this is what I've kind of stockpiled this all for. Yeah, man, I think I'm just on the surface trying to think of players. Like realistically, just think about this for a second. Rome is very much similar to like T in value right now. Like if someone sent JJ McCarthy and Rome Odunze out for Ashton Jeanty, unless someone believes very much in Rome or JJ McCarthy, I'm gonna guess that they auto decline that, which is one, crazy how Ashton Jeanty's value is, and then two, basically this is one of the problems with rookie fever still happening. Man, if someone drafted Jeanty at the 101, you know what's going to take to pry him out of his hands in May? Like, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. I would be comfortable probably in that range, but man, it's hefty, man. It's hefty.
If I would, me personally, I wouldn't be targeting Ashton Jeanty for that reason. Like, if you need first, I would never. I would still try to be stockpiling value right now. I don't know if you need to go out and fill a running back need right now. But I just wouldn't do this. Like, I know that's not the question, but
Yeah.
I would be on the side of keeping McCarthy, and then if you need a running back, wait. If you need to fill that running back spot, wait a little bit, because we're still in May. I get it. We're seeing the guys run around in shorts right now, which don't get me started on those clips on Twitter. But yeah, I would have a very hard time paying up for an Ashton Jeanty, no matter how good I think he's going to be. So
yeah, I think if I was going to do this now, I would try to target a different running back, right? That's the way I would look at it.
Yes.
If you're locked in on Jeanty, I get it, but just understand you're going to be paying. It's kind of like a stock, right? Like, whatever stock you think right now is extremely great and this great company, a blue chip stock, right? There's not like when you bought Amazon at a discount now. Like, you're basically paying up for Amazon, so to speak, and you're hoping that the production's going to come, and it very well may. But there's not really any reward anymore. Like, the value gain is going to be very incremental moving forward with that stock like Amazon. Like with Jeanty, he has to smash, and he has to do it now for you to get any type of residual rewards, and they're going to be minimal. So you're basically, my point is, you're paying up for the entire value when you add a guy like JJ McCarthy into the trade and then a premier player with him. So that's kind of where I'm at, why I wouldn't do it. K-Bach, what's up, man? Let's see. Okay. Trade Bryce Young for Purdy and a plus if possible. Peter, I mean, if there's a plus, of course. I mean...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'd probably take whatever side it has the plus on it.
I was just going to say, because I actually have not been the biggest Purdy fan or believer with the contract. I mean, not that he wasn't going to get one, but where he's at now, I think his value is pretty stable, and I have these guys extremely close, which means they're in a tier for me, which means 1 for 1, I would stay on my side in a trade. If you can get a plus, absolutely, though. Absolutely. But, I mean, Bryce Young, to me, in most places, most camps, is going to be slightly behind Purdy. So if I can get Purdy and a plus, I mean, of course, man, of course. Yes, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
And I guess Purdy did get his bag.
Oh, he's saying I need ideas. Well, you're going to have to be creative. I don't see how Bryce Young gets Purdy plus unless you tell me you have context or know something about the other manager. But go ahead about the Purdy bag, yeah.
So Purdy did become a relatively stable, however you feel about him, he's probably going to be a starting quarterback for the 49ers for the next 4 years or whatever the contract says. I mean, it's going to be tough for them to get out of it the way it's structured. So, and we'll see. I mean, Bryce Young was starting to pick it up towards the end of last year. So as I'm talking through it, I mean, maybe I side with Purdy a little bit more.
Yeah.
If it's like a straight up even
1 for 1 swap. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's not too far off for me.
No. So. Okay. We have D-Walk says, if not competing, can you add Bryce and get a 26 first for a quarterback? I think he's saying. If not competing, can you add to Bryce and get a top 26 first, then either draft your guy or trade away the highly valued pick as an inevitable rookie? I'll be honest, D-Walk, maybe I'm not reading it right. Or Seth, if you get what he's asking here.
Is he saying, and I'm not sure how you would know this, but trade Bryce Young and another piece to get a 2026 rookie pick next year because the quarterback's going to be better next year? That's
what he's thinking, and he kind of clarifies here. So, yeah, okay. That makes more sense when you're trying to say, what can I get Bryce Young and to package that to someone's early first, and you're getting this early first as a chip that you can maybe either trade or like trade in season to reload your team or draft. The second coming of Jeanty 5, I just want to put this in on wax. I wouldn't be expecting the second coming of Jaden, okay? But conceptually, I get it. Let me ask you this. I'm looking at his team, or he doesn't have his team up here. Pre-game brew, my bad. You're good, buddy. All good. I understand it. if you're flush at QBs and you can afford to do this, I think I'd be willing to take on the risk of it, because I think also as this pick becomes more clearly early to the league and season, you can flip it for more. The question is, what do you have to add? I mean, that's going to make or break it, though. Seth, what if you knew it was a top 3 pick in the 26th class? What would you be willing to add to Bryce Young here?
If I knew it was a top 3 pick,
yeah. Let's operate from that standpoint, because that's probably, I'd imagine, what this is going to cost.
Yeah. So right now, Bryce Young, according to Keep Trade Cut, is worth a 2026 mid first on his own.
Yeah.
That's according to Keep Trade Cut. Like, obviously,
Sure.
your league's probably going to be different,
Right.
but I would say if you know it's going to be a top 3, like, how about, I mean, just from this class, would I add like a Matthew Golden? Would that get it done?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, if I can add someone that's late first, early second value, which is, I mean, Matthew Golden's a perfect example. So what I don't want to do, D-Walk, is here's what I don't want to do, okay? Because this is not a lock for sure, unless you can tell me this team is the worst team you've ever seen. It's not actually a lock that you're going to be a top 3 pick. What I don't want to do is add what is a projected late first to this for this pick, because I have seen trades like that when you look back in a year, the projected late first, that team like gets hurt in a bunch of places, and all of a sudden you have a worse pick and you gave Bryce Young to the trade. So I'm not looking to do that, all right? If I'm staying in the player range, I think can I send away a Trey Harris? Can I send away a honestly, if you can get off of, like, I don't know where Tootin's value is, but him, Cam, Scatabo, I think right now that's probably what I'd be looking to do and what you're probably going to need to do. I'm still looking to capitalize on rookie fever, so I think we're still in that window, and I think a player like that is the best way to probably get this trade to go through, D-Walk. So if you have those type of assets, that's what I'm trying to add. Yeah,
and I'll say, like, one of the perks of acquiring future picks is that they're future picks. You're not making them right now. And so sometimes dynasty managers are more willing to part with those because, they're not. And so for that reason, I would start low and see if you can get a negotiation going. Not super low, but I think you're kind of on the right track. But like I said, it's a cautionary tale that this pick, no matter how much of a lock that you think it is going to be top 3, like, there's no guarantee that it's going to be top 3. So just know that going in. So, but I like the angle always of just continually churning out, acquiring future rookie picks, because some dynasty managers just don't have their eye on those for whatever reason.
Yeah. And I will say this too, right now, especially after the rookie, when the rookie draft hasn't happened yet, so I'm imagining it's happened in your league. If it's not, that's a different conversation. But before that point, people can kind of maybe pencil in rookie picks. They'll like to do this for their team, right? I got the 102. I'm going to take Hampton there, or whatever their target is, right? And they kind of pencil that into their roster. Once the rookie draft has taken place, people really like to look at their team and feel no stress. They want to feel like it's good. It looks great. And I feel like you can almost capitalize on the fact of if there's a hole in someone's roster, or you're helping them fill, a flex option, or, right off the bench, early parts of the bench. People don't really equate, though, typically. I think the ones that are less sharp anyway, I'll say, I love to see what I have in my draft stock cupboard, right? I want to make sure on teams like this I have a bunch of picks, even if I'm contending. So if I can get someone's early pick that's projected that, now I can put this on my roster in season and move it. Even on a contender, I'd love that. So, yeah, I think I'd probably add players, any type of players in that range. Matthew Golden. I think where I'd probably start to pause is guys like in this rookie class. Like if I had to add to an Ibuka, I'd probably be looking to hold off personally. But outside of that, that's what I got. Chuck's got one last question, and we'll get out of here. But what do you got there, Seth?
I was just gonna say that I think that's a good line in the sand to draw. Like that's exactly what I was thinking too. I was like, I don't think I'd go as high as Ibuka, because I have Ibuka over Golden.
Same.
Yeah, I that's all I was gonna say to that. That's a good line in the sand to draw. I think we were right on the same wavelength there.
We definitely were. We're in lockstep. All right, Chuck, this will be the last question of the night. All right, what do you guys think about some hyping up 27 picks over 26? Will rebuilders still get as much value as usual by hoarding 26 picks? Okay, Chuck, let me just give you what I think on the surface real quickly, and I'll get Seth's thoughts, and we'll get out of here. This is I think of this like, I try to give you this comparison, right? Excuse me. 2022 was a shitty class. I think it's going to end up working out to be very similar. The way in which we think about each one of the classes, though, slightly different. And 2022 was shitty, right? 2023 was the most hyped dynasty class I've ever seen at the time, like early on, right? So in the 2021 offseason, people were fishing for 2023 picks, right? So what I will say is I think 27 is getting that type of hype, but the reality was the 24 class was actually more valuable and was kind of more sneaky at the time. This time around, the 25 class, shitty. 2026 class, I think is really actually pretty damn good. And the 27 class is way, way more hyped. If you told me that 27 was coming after this shitty 25 class, I could make the case that, okay, hoarding the 25 picks maybe isn't that great. Hoarding 26 picks is going to be just fine because we're going to actualize the 26 picks before the 27 picks. There's a bunch of quarterbacks that can go in the first round. There's plenty of talent in this 26 class. Is it as good as 27? Honestly, just not on the top end. I don't think 27 is some crazy deep class though. Like 27 has 2 unbelievable players at the top. That's what's driving the hype. But I don't know that the 27 class is going to be so much more hyped up across the board, right? The whole first round, let's say, versus the 26 class. We just have potentially a second coming of guys like Malik Nabers, Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas Jr., whoever you wanted to put it as, right? That's what's driving the 26 to 27 value. But I think passing on 26 picks, generic first and 26, passing on those for 2027, I think you're actually losing a little bit in value decay. So I will say I would not be shying away from 2026 hoarding. But Seth, what do you got?
And this is maybe going to be too generic of an answer, but in life, in Dynasty, whenever I see people just hyping something up to the moon, and it's like the sneaky Dynasty gamer in me wants to take advantage somehow, to take advantage of the hype somehow. I don't know exactly how I would do it, but so no, to answer the question, no. If there's somebody that is just, no, the 26 class is not going to be good as 27 for whatever reason, they're going to get away, they're trading 26 picks, I would absolutely be hitting up that manager to get 26 picks. I want future rookie picks. To be honest with you, I don't really care what year it is because they're the most they're the most fluid asset in Dynasty. You could do whatever you want with them. You know, you can trade them away, you can keep them, make the pick. So to make a long story short, the answer is no. I'm still buying 26 picks because I remember the 2019 class was supposed to suck, and I think if I remember right, we got A.J. Brown from that class, David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, and I could be totally wrong about this. That's just off the top of my head. But so even in shitty classes, you could still have some good hits in there if you do your scouting, and you can look at profiles and things of that nature, and nobody's going to bat 1,000. But yeah, I would. It's like, I don't know, man. And maybe that's just the old man in me getting older. Like all these kids, and they think that this class is going to be so good and blah blah blah, and sure. I don't know, but yeah, but that's my answer. I would say I want all the rookie picks. I don't really care what year, because those are only going to gain value over time. For sure. I think that's we have similar thoughts on that. By the way, I will tell you I lied and I didn't mean to, but Goose, shout out Goose, guy I was talking about. Appreciate that Malik Nabers share. Goose asks, y'all trading Tua for a random 27 first? This is where context is key. You told me a 12-team league, I might. You tell me this, a 10-team league, and I have these quarterbacks. In 10-team, I think super flex 10-team leagues. The quarterback position is so overvalued typically and not needed. The scarcity doesn't exist. Now, if you're telling me Jaden or the premier quarterbacks, they're still highly valuable. Tua in this format, I'm begging people to take him away. I would love for that random 27 first. Yes. So go ahead and do it, Goose. Just know we don't play in a 10-team league, but if we did, I would not take your damn Tua share for a 27 first. Seth, anything you want to plug before we get out of here, buddy? No, just subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and the Dynasty Roundtable. I also have my own personal YouTube channel you can check out as well. I think that's about it. Twitter, all the socials, first and last name. Check it out.
Awesome, man. Seth Diewold. Seth, make sure you get me all those links. I'll make sure they're put in the description of this video, so you can go check him out on the different platforms he's on. We appreciate you hopping on. Appreciate you being a part of the South Harmon family. Appreciate you guys all being here. We'll see you back here, same time, same place. We'll see if Mike is back next week. We love you. We're out of here. Peace.